Hey, it's Pastor and Kyla, and today we're going to rank the Pantera albums.
Yep, gonna rank the Pantera albums from worst to best, and if you stick around with us till the end, we're gonna talk about seeing them live in Toronto, February 26th, 2024. So Pantera, one of the most famous metal bands of all time. If you discount Metallica's Black Album, I think you have a hard time not making the case that Pantera were not the heavy metal band of the 90s. They formed in 1981 in Arlington, Texas, and they put out 3 albums before Phil Anselmo would join them on vocals. At that point, they put out Power Metal, which I don't own, but I have heard it several times. People talk about it as being a very Judas Priest influenced release. More than anything, I hear early Queensryche, the first EP, The Warning, that era Queensryche. And I think it's pretty awesome, but we're going to be starting with Cowboys from Hell just because we don't have the stuff before Cowboys from Hell, and let's face it, the vast majority of Pantera fans, and even the band itself, don't really include that in their discography. So, right or wrong, that's what we're doing here. So, Pantera, that was one of the first metal bands I ever got into. I've said a couple times in other videos that I had older cousins that were into them. Dubbed Far Beyond Driven onto cassette. Their other releases I would get from the local video store. I don't know how many of you from the 90s remember, but there was some independent video stores where you could rent CDs. So, of course, you would take those home and dub them onto tape and return them. And that's where I became familiar with Pantera's work. They were also the first band I bought a t-shirt of. It had the band on the cover, on the front, and on the back it said the good, the bad, the vulgar. And my parents hated that shirt. They never really gave me too much of a hard time about being into metal, but I could tell they didn't like Pantera, and they didn't like that t-shirt, but what are you going to do? And that being said, let's start our ranking. My number 5 is definitely going to be an unpopular pick. It's just my opinion. So what's our number 5 Pantera album?
Number 5 is
Vulgar Display of Power, the second album, 1992 on Atlantic. Is it the number 1 selling Pantera album? I'm not so sure about that, but it does have the most recognizable songs. Walk, Hostile, Regular People, these all have songs. All these songs have things I like about them, but they're also kind of simple. The lyrics have too much of the tough guy thing going on, and a lot of people criticize Pantera for having that tough guy attitude, and it is a fair statement, but at no time were they ever so much in that mode as on this album, and it's not really for me. Hollow and This Love are, I never really liked those songs. They did play those both live the other day, actually. So yeah, this is by far my least favorite Pantera album, but my favorite song is probably the opener, Mouth for War.
Number 4 is
Reinventing the Steel, the final Pantera album from 2000. When this came out, I was probably 16, 17, but I was more into extreme metal at this point, and my interest in Pantera had definitely waned, although there's never been a time when I disliked the band by any means. Just not a very memorable songs on here, but if I got to pick just 2, Yesterday and Death Rattle. Number 3.
Number 3 is
Album number 4, The Great Southern Tranquil, 1996 on Atlantic. I don't think this is the heaviest Pantera album, but it definitely has the most wild moments on here. At the same time, to its detriment, it's a little inconsistent, a little meandering, a little all over the place. My favorite songs on here are probably 13 Steps to Nowhere and The Underground in America. I remember I got this on I'm pretty sure it was my 13th birthday. I had a bunch of friends from school come over, and one of my friends gave me this right when it came out. One gave me Pantera's Load, and one gave me Slayer's Undisputed Attitude covers album. Those 3 albums all got released around the same time, and I got those all on the same day.
Number 2 is Cowboys from Hell.
The debut major label album, 1990 on Atlantic. Like the album I just talked about, it's a little all over the place and inconsistent, but the songs themselves are awesome. Cowboys from Hell, overplayed, but you can't deny it. Same with Cemetery Gates, Primal Concrete Sledge, Domination, Shattered, Medicine Man, Message in Blood, The Art of Shredding. I could go on and on. I hadn't put this album on for many, many years up until recently. And when I put it on, third track, Psycho Holiday, came on, and that put a big smile on my face. I mean, it's kind of goofy, but I totally forgot about that song, and totally brought me back. I actually still remember when I bought this. I bought this, again, I was pretty young, maybe 13, and I bought this on the same day I bought the debut album from Down and Schizophrenia by Sepultura. So, what's the number 1?
Number 1 is
Far Beyond Driven, 1994 on Atlantic. First real heavy metal album to go number 1 on the charts. Definitely the heaviest Pantera album. And as you can see, definitely my favorite. I can name this whole album. I'm Broken is probably my favorite Pantera single. But Planet Caravan by Black Sabbath. They have a cover at the end here. I like this cover better than the original. Throes of Rejection, Use My Third Arm, Shedding Skin, and my personal favorite, Hard Lines, Sunken Cheeks. Amazing. So we're going to start talking about the concert now. Scotiabank Theatre in Toronto. So that's where the Maple Leafs and the Raptors play. A lot of the big concerts come there. I did notice they did section off the upper bowl. I don't know if that was low ticket sales or just the capacity they were after from the beginning. But I like the atmosphere, actually. Usually go to a big place, they got advertisements everywhere. The lights are way too bright. But I thought, once you got onto the floor, the lights were dim. There weren't advertisements everywhere. I couldn't even find a clock on the wall. So the atmosphere is somewhat right. And this t-shirt, bought this in the parking lot. Not going to lie, it's a bootleg. But I don't pay $60 for t-shirts. You spend enough getting in the door. What I buy once we got in a bottle of water and a piece of pizza, $20. So no t-shirts for me. I got the parking lot t-shirt, but I'm pretty happy with it actually. And Patrick came along, and was that an environment for kids? It wasn't too bad. Pretty borderline. A lot of swearing, I guess, but could be worse. One of those things where you sit down with a bunch of adults, and I look at it like this: like if someone in the vicinity is going to be smoking a joint or something, I mean, you're at a concert for adults. You can't get all upset about that. But what I did think was weird is that the couple sitting right in front of us, once the show started, they were just chain smoking cigarettes. I thought that was kind of crazy, but what are you gonna do, right? Get into an argument, ruin the night? No. And actually, speaking of kids, behind us there was a dad and his 2 sons. They're probably a little bit older and a little bit younger than you. One was probably like 7 and one was like 10. And they went crazy for Lamb of God, and then as soon as Lamb of God finished their set, they were out of there. So, guess there were some Lamb of God fans, I guess. But we'll get to them later. The set list, I guess it was okay. They started out with A New Level, which is a good, not great song to me. Closed out with Cowboys from Hell, and a 1-song encore, which was Hostile. I guess the other couple weird things I thought about the set list was they played Suicide Note Part 2, which was definitely a deep cut from Great Southern Trendkill and definitely stuck out, but was cool to see. And they did not play Cemetery Gates. I made a point of not getting acquainted with the set list, so it would all be surprises. I don't know if Cemetery Gates is a live staple for Pantera or not. I mean, I would have assumed so, but they did not play it. So those were the 2 surprises for me. But Patrick, you've been kind of quiet. What were your top 3 songs played by Pantera that night?
Walk.
Okay.
I'm Broken,
Nice.
and Cowboys from Hell.
Okay. Good picks. My top 3 were probably representing Far Beyond Driven, Strength Beyond Strength, and Becoming. Was very happy to hear both of those. And I'm also going to say Floods. For years, I did not like that song, Floods. But as the years go on, it was totally lost on me that people thought that solo was like one of the best solos ever. And I've grown to obviously love that solo too. It is pretty awesome. But seeing that song performed live, the song as a whole resonated with me. So I've come around on that, and that was my third favorite song of the night. Talking about guitar solos, obviously Dimebag's not there. You got Zakk Wylde handling guitars. I have no complaints. Obviously, Zakk Wylde's an amazing guitar player, was very loyal to the originals. The solos were very close to being the same, I thought. I guess he is just kind of stationary with his head down on stage and not the character Dimebag was, but we're never going to see him, and that's just the way it is. What do I feel about the reunion overall? I guess I had no problem with it. Should they have called it Pantera? I don't think so, but the world we live in, I'm sure if they didn't call it Pantera, it would not be successful the way it is right now. I mean, just think about any other albums. Any of these albums would be a perfect name for Pantera without the Abbott brothers, and would still be obvious to the fans. Cowboys from Hell, Great Southern Tranquil, Reinventing the Steel, Vulgar Display of Power, Far Beyond Driven. Any one of those album titles would be a perfect name for a reformed modern-day Pantera. I've heard rumors about Black Tooth Grin. I appreciate the Dimebag tribute, but I don't know, that's a great name for a band. So the opening bands, they opened up with Snafu, who are signed to Phil Anselmo's Housecore label. They're from Detroit. Definitely a thrashy, punky, straightforward, aggressive metal band. I thought they put on a good show, and I did like their performance. So the next day, I did listen to their 2 full-length albums on Spotify. Cool stuff, but I enjoyed them live better than I did what I heard on record. And then Lamb of God. So Lamb of God have always been a real blind spot for me. I remember them ever since they first came out as Burn the Priest way back in the day. I remember seeing them in the magazines. And A New American Gospel, As the Palaces Burn. They blew up from there. I've never disliked them, but I've never given them a chance. And I don't say that about many bands. I'm obsessed with metal. Love it or hate it. I feel like I know a lot about a lot of different kinds of metal. And Lamb of God, I just was never interested. I'm not saying I was right. I just always had this feeling of they lacked the spark of true metal. That was my belief. So seeing them live, I gotta say they won me over. Randy, the vocalist, not my kind of vocals. A little bit too generic for me, but he does have a lot of power behind him. A good front man. The drummer was awesome. The sound was awesome. These guys are total pros, and I walked out of there saying, Lamb of God, Mason, I need to check out. But like Snafu, the next day I delved into some Lamb of God. It's quality music. I just don't have time for that kind of thing. It's just only so many hours in the day. It's good, not great to my ears. But at the same time, they earn my respect. And if I were to see them on a bill with other bands, that might be enough to make me say, hey, I'll go. They put on a good show. So, Pantera Live. Anything you want to add?
Not really.
Not really. Okay, that's it. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.